It's Wednesday, the 19th of May, 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, the business news you need in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. In today's headlines, the Reserve Bank and Treasury play down inflation concerns, but are still worried about the labour market in Australia. Plus, the Fair Work Commission delivers a blow to the gig economy, China looks to mine its own iron ore, and the big retailers and manufacturers agree to phase out single-use plastics by 2025. Our lead story today, inflation may spike during the June quarter, and the end of JobKeeper didn't trigger big job losses, but both the Reserve Bank and Federal Treasury remain concerned about the labour market and people not finding enough work. The minutes of this month's Reserve Bank board meeting were released yesterday and showed the members were relatively relaxed about inflation. That's despite companies reporting price pressures. Building materials group James Hardie yesterday said it was feeling the effect of higher prices, and despite lenders starting to increase rates on longer-term loans. Headline inflation may spike during the current quarter, the bank said, on the back of strong demand for steel in China and supply chain disruptions before heading lower again. It came as the head of Federal Treasury, Stephen Kennedy, who sits on the Reserve Bank board, said Australia's $1.6 trillion debt over the next decade was affordable. He also said that between 16,000 and 40,000 people on the JobKeeper wage subsidy had lost work after it ended in late March, but that figure was well below previous estimates of at least 100,000. Mr. Kennedy said there remained considerable slack in employment and the government was right to keep spending money to drive the unemployment rate below 5%. We've been saying it for months, and now the Reserve Bank and Federal Treasury, the two preeminent economic organisations in the country, are making it abundantly clear. It's all about jobs. Even if other indicators suggest a strong rebound, the Reserve Bank and Treasury are mostly interested in the unemployment rate, and that's why tomorrow's unemployment figures for April are critical. In overseas news, there are reports out of the United Kingdom that the government is locked into an internal battle over whether to sign off on a free trade deal with Australia. Ministers are divided over whether to grant tariff-free access to Australian farmers, fearing the backlash it would trigger within the local farming sector. The UK has said it was trying to do the FTA, its first post-Brexit, before the G7 summit next month. Amazon is talking to blue-chip movie studio Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer about purchasing the business for about $9 billion. It would put Amazon's Prime streaming service well and truly in the big league, competing with Netflix. MGM's back catalogue includes the James Bond series, Rocky films, and hundreds of other box office hits. And an International Energy Agency report said for the world to reach net zero emissions by 2050, there needs to be no new investment in coal or gas, while 4 times the number of solar and wind projects are needed. The report also says newer renewable energy sources, such as hydrogen and carbon capture, need to be supercharged, though IEA also called for a ban on the sale of internal combustion engine cars by 2035. Locally, the Fair Work Commission has ruled that a driver for Deliveroo was an employee of the company, not an independent contractor, meaning he's entitled to employment rights and protections such as the minimum wage, holiday pay and superannuation payments, as well as protection from unfair dismissal. The decision could have wide-ranging ramifications for the gig economy. The gig economy relies on relatively cheap labour, in part because many of the costs of employing someone are avoided. It also suits many workers who want the flexibility, but it does open individuals to being exploited, and that ain't good. Australians who are fully vaccinated will get passports to allow them to travel across state borders in the event of future closures. Prime Minister Scott Morrison yesterday reiterated that it was too early to end international travel restrictions, but said domestic passports would be developed with the state and territories. Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg was on the hustings yesterday, as he has been every day since the federal budget a week ago, and said there was scope to bring in international students above state quarantine caps. More students wouldn't only help the ailing higher education sector, it would also support apartment sales and tenancy in the inner city rings of the big cities. China's top economic planning body said it will step up domestic iron ore exploration and production and look for new import options as the price of the ore continues to trade above US $200 a tonne. With lockdowns in Brazil affecting supply, China has become very reliant on Australia for high-grade iron ore. Yesterday, China's National Development and Reform Commission called on Australia to take rational and objective measures to trade. The reality is that Beijing might want to find new sources of iron ore or develop its own industries, but it will take years to do so, even for China. And big retailers, including Coles, Aldi and Woolworths, along with major food manufacturers, have committed to making all plastic packaging reusable, recyclable or compostable by 2025. Other groups to sign on to the Anzac Plastics Pact include Amcor, Coca-Cola, Nestle, Unilever, Colgate-Palmolive and Arnott's. The launch of the pact coincided with a report from Andrew Forrest Minderoo Foundation, which claimed just 100 companies were behind as much as 90% of global production of single-use plastics. That's the Fear and Greed business headlines for today. Make sure you hit follow so you get it every morning. And if you'd like more detail and more stories, search for our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. We also release a daily interview. Today we're talking to Adam Finesse from Impact about using partnerships to drive sales. I'll be back later with the afternoon market report. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.